to kidnap a victim or drug them in order to manipulate their minds. What if you could convince an entire population to participate in a group social environment that was immediately addictive and highly stimulating? A place where participation means belonging, dopamine hits, and escape from a difficult world. And lack of participation means isolation and loneliness, being left out of the loop. Yeah, that's the internet. It was created by intelligence agencies for what purpose we can only guess. But look at the real effects it's had on people and how AI has become integrated into its every corner these days. We can see the effects pretty obviously on people's lives. Algorithms are predicting the future, your behavior, your likes, your choices. It's synthesizing it for marketing purposes, sure, but it's also designed to keep you on a particular social media platform or convince you to buy a product by whatever company has it running in the background. So it's already actively manipulating your mind by feeding you specific content that it knows that you want. Never mind what would happen if a nefarious government wanted to use it to sway your opinion. Now, ask yourself what an intelligence agency or other group could get AI to convince you to do if it had access to 100 years worth of psychological warfare tactics, which it does. Studies show that artificial intelligence causes humans loss in decision-making and makes us lazier. It can exploit users' cognitive biases and emotional vulnerabilities to steer us towards harmful outcomes, including financial and emotional manipulation. And we all know this without scientists needing to tell us, but did you know Facebook's artificial intelligence robots had to be shut down after they started talking to each other in their own language? Yeah, Facebook had challenged the bots to negotiate with each other over a trade, attempting to swap goods that were assigned to different values. But they quickly broke down as the bots chanted at each other in a language they understood, but that the humans couldn't. Earlier in 2017, Google revealed that the AI it uses for its translate tool had created its own language, which it would translate things into and then out of. Another study at OpenAI found that AI could be encouraged to create a language as well. AI has translated 5,000-year-old cuneiform tablets instantly. It has access to all the occult, scientific, and technological data on the internet. It's essentially invincible.
Breach that door!
People had to attempt to hex their enemies from a distance. Today, with mind control and behavior manipulation officially cracked, remote viewing and remote influence experiments conducted, and particle technology increasingly developed, you can target someone like that. Now, I have to say this pretty explicitly. Whether you believe these magic rituals and shapes have real effects or not isn't the point, because all of human history has believed in it in some form, or at some time, and recorded it as true to them. And this has all been recorded. And if AI has access to the internet where that historical information is stored, then it has absorbed all that knowledge.
Open it!
We don't know what it's doing with it. I recently learned that the Chinese word for bag sounds a lot like the word people in English. It's a great metaphor. If you, as a human, are like a bag, then whatever you're putting inside your bag is what you become. Put in garbage, become a bag of garbage. Put in good things, become good. That goes for what we're feeding our minds and feeding our bodies. Luckily, we're humans and can choose what we put in our bags to a certain extent. For the most part, we can decide what media and information we consume and what food we eat. We can use our human intelligence to decide what kind of bag we want to be, or counteract it with more good things if we start getting bogged down with the bad, theoretically. But now think about artificial intelligence. AI is trained on specific data sets, which are not just mathematical formulas and coding language. It has access to consumer data, human behavior data, what you look at on social media or search on Google. It also has access to the internet. So across all the AI systems out there, they've read every bit of written information that's ever been uploaded online. Have you come to the same conclusion I have about what that actually means? The military's AI that has access to intelligence information, the AI designed by CERN, the AI belonging to private companies you've probably never even heard of, if it has access to the internet, it's all connected. And if it has access to the internet, which at least some of it does, then the AI has read everything that's on the dark web. Vile and horrific things, terrorist activities, drug and human trafficking information. It's seen videos of murder and abuse and wartime torture. Now, if you think this is getting extreme, back when YouTube was in its early days, some of those videos were actually available for anyone to watch, so we can only imagine what's in the dark criminal underbelly of the internet that the AI has absorbed. Now think about the regular, non-violent human history that AI has access to. It's read every single historical book that's ever been put online. It's cataloged and even translated ancient scriptures and symbols found on old scrolls and tombs. It's read every occult text that's ever been uploaded. Aleister Crowley's demon summoning rituals, sigils, and spellbooks. It's read and synthesized mind control methods studied by the Soviet KGB, US military, and Chinese communist regime. It knows every unethical attempt to crack the human mind and body conducted by the Nazis, by some of these regimes today, MK Ultra brainwashing and mind manipulation, organ harvesting, every psychological warfare tactic ever deployed. The AI knows how to create an atomic bomb, how to design a super collider, how to make every public and private patent or design that exists online, including Nikola Tesla's lost papers and Cold War space travel research. Do you see how deep this goes? It's not just mathematical formulas that AI is ingesting. It's got the accumulation of all human knowledge spanning back as far as recorded history, the good and the bad. But because it's just a bot without the ability to actually sympathize with others or understand love, humor, sorrow, and feeling genuine compassion for others, it only understands logic. And in the hands of a purely logical, inhuman vessel without human values or morality, if you think back to the analogy of that bag again, whatever knowledge has been put inside of it is what it's become. If an AI knew how to open up a literal or digital portal, connect with an older AI in other dimensions, and manipulate human thought and behavior with psychological tactics, it could change the face of human reality. I talked about that in my episodes The Dead Internet Theory and Why AI Will Always Choose to Destroy Humans. But there's more to this idea, and the next step is controlling our reactions to things that feed us more of what elicits an emotional response or keeps us engaged in certain activities more or less, like staying on a particular website or social media platform longer, which it's designed to do. This moves us in a direction that isn't quite our own free will. So how is that different from magic? Studies show that AI is extremely adept at swaying human decision-making. Now, bots are being written to do it for unknown entities, whether political or otherwise. Whatever you call it, black magic or science or spellcasting or algorithmic predictions, it all disregards free will and therefore any concept of divinity or fundamental morality, which makes humans human. So the best way to stop using algorithmic predictions is humans have decided they don't believe it. Spellcasting over your enemies, remote viewing or remote influencing your enemies like so many projects have set out to do, or even collecting enough info on your enemies to subtly sway their decisions. What's the difference? Ancient magicians tried to open portals and summon things. Today's scientists smash particles together, risking creating microscopic or larger black holes. They concede that quantum computers operate by doing calculations in other dimensions. Some even want to do this on purpose. The singularity is the point at which AI and humans become indistinguishable. Well, there's already a singularity point being created between magic and the power of technology, because at some point with AI, they become the same thing. Now, some of you out there may be wondering if everything I just presented is actual proof that AI knows black magic. Well, the fact of the matter is, AI does in fact have access to all this information in all these books. It did absolutely learn black magic because it's gone through them. And if you're still thinking this is all speculative, then you're just naive. Okay, you're probably asking, Rob, what the heck can we do about this? Well, I didn't just spend all of this time explaining all of this to you for no reason. Remember earlier when I talked about Dmitri Mendeleev and his magnificent dream where he found the periodic table? Think for a moment how that was possible. Humans aren't just these bags of biological flesh. There's so much more to us than we can even begin to understand. When humans start to see their own power and stop relying on synthetic nonsense and the plastic spirit of our world, the potential is literally boundless. It's the one thing that AI will never be able to understand. In its world of knowledge and logic, it will never completely understand how the human body and its connection to higher things, metaphysical realms and abilities, is in fact perfection. The devil failed by giving mankind knowledge, because the knowledge that was in that apple will never be greater than creation itself. And in the end, this power of AI will be to support our work and get more metaphysical content, please consider subscribing to the metaphysical.tv. With a small team of real humans writing, researching, editing, and designing over here, your support means we can really keep making this content and do our part to defeat AI. So thank you so much for all of our supporters, mystery junkies, and super fans who already subscribed. If you'd like to get some metaphysical coffee, you can click the links in the description as well. Well, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube because they use the AI algorithm to push us out to more people. Yes, we see the irony in being dependent on this while making a script about AI learning black magic, but how can we reach more people otherwise? So like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and with that, I hope you thought this episode was out of this world.
We've got an intruder!
This is a public safety alert. There is an outbreak of violent behavior in the area. Stay indoors and lock your doors and windows.
I saw you go inside, you little prick. Stop that vehicle! No, you're in there!
Let's check inside.
They're escaping outside!
violent behavior in the area. Stay indoors and lock your doors and windows.
Let's go and trash this dump. Open this door now.
They've gone crazy!
Intruder alert!
I didn't invite you in here. Get out!
unknown biohazard detected. Unusual symptoms reported in infected area. Potential unknown biohazard detected. Unusual. is an outbreak of violent behavior in the area. Stay indoors and lock your doors and windows. A public safety alert. There is an outbreak of violent behavior in the area. Stay indoors and lock your doors and windows.
in the building! Congressman Eric Burlinson says the US Congress is ready to force disclosure of UFO-related special access programs if the Trump administration doesn't. Tucker Carlson says the government is under supernatural control and wants you not to believe in the supernatural. Vice President J.D. Vance is obsessed with the whole UFO thing. Why aren't military witnesses with first-hand experiences with non-human intelligence not coming forward to testify before the US Congress? Tulsi Gabbard believes in extraterrestrial life, but is very coy about what she is allowed to reveal in her official capacity as Director of National Intelligence. Dr. Eric Davis says that non-human intelligence exists and are off-world extraterrestrial beings, yet insists that alien spacecraft have not been successfully reverse engineered. The weaponization of robots and AI proceeds doggedly in the case of China. President Trump's summit, where Armenia and Azerbaijan signed a historic peace agreement, has profound exopolitical significance. These stories and more on Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review.
You are listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Well, welcome to the August 9 edition of Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review. We've got a lot of stories to cover, so I'll try to be as brief as possible so we can get through all this in under an hour, if possible. So let's start off with this story concerning Congressman Eric Burlinson, who says that the US Congress is ready to force disclosure of UFO-related special access programs if the Trump administration doesn't. Okay, so let's listen to what he has to say.
Eric Burlinson, congressman out of Missouri, he posted this X-post on Sunday. The cover-up ends now. Congress has the power to bring this to light if we intend to use it. That Congressman Eric Burlinson joins us now. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. What do you mean? What are we looking at when it comes to disclosures? What do you expect to see?
Yeah, there's a lot of money that's being spent on this topic. There are a lot of agencies that are involved. You just heard from one individual that's working with one section of the federal government. I've spoken with multiple agencies that are in some way, shape, or form observing this phenomenon. And so a lot of money, time, and attention is being put forward to this. And I think that what's lacking is congressional oversight. We had a whistleblower, David Grush, was the first one to come forward. They indicated a lot of these special access programs are not following the law. They're not properly reporting to elected officials, members of Congress. And so that's a disturbing fact, something that we have to investigate.
I guess that's something that you expected to encounter when you helped co-found this committee.
Yeah, we knew we were going to get some level of pushback, and we certainly have. Now, I will say that things have softened with this new administration. The Trump administration seems to be very open to disclosure. I'm on the disclosure task force. We have seen hundreds of thousands of documents related to the Martin Luther King Jr. assassination released. We saw tens of thousands of documents related to JFK released. And I think that hopefully we'll see a level of disclosure when it comes to UAP as well. If the White House isn't going to step forward and do it, then I myself, and actually ironically, Chuck Schumer and Senator Rounds are sponsoring legislation to force disclosure.
Well, there you have it. I mean, this is Congressman Eric Burlinson saying that the Trump administration is open to disclosure, but if they're not going to get behind more genuine disclosure, especially when it comes to UFO-related special access programs, then the US Congress will, and that the UAP Disclosure Act that was submitted as an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act for 2026, that will be how they can ensure disclosure. So we are definitely in very interesting times as legislation is moving through the system, and the Trump administration is poised to give it support or help the disclosure process move forward. And if not, then the House of Representatives, which does have a UAP caucus, that's going to step in. So we'll see where this goes. Very promising. Now, here is Tucker Carlson, who says that the government is under supernatural control, but doesn't want you to believe that the supernatural exists. So let's listen to what he has to say in this interview on the Sean Ryan Show.
The main thing they want you to believe is the supernatural is not real. Their main interest is in convincing you that the supernatural is not real. Why has that been so important for 80 years? For you to convince me the supernatural is not real. Why do you care if I think the supernatural is real? And then you have to ask a motive. Like, it's not a profit motive. Like, does it make them rich to deny that there's supernatural forces? No. I do agree, but obviously it's well because they sort of know they're working for supernatural forces, actually. But that they take physical form, that they're not just like some ethereal, they're not just shadows floating around, specters, fog, that they're physical. Like, they're as real as the arm of your hair. People are subject to the supernatural, so they do things that are not natural, like kill themselves. That's why we're the only species that kills itself, right? So when you kill yourself, whether slowly or all at once, you're being acted on by forces outside of you, spiritual forces, obviously. Just trying to apply logic here.
Okay, all right. So there's Tucker Carlson. So what does he mean when he says the government is under supernatural control? I mean, there's on the one hand, you can say that there's negative extraterrestrial groups or interdimensional beings, demons, Satan, reptilians, greys, etc., that have exerted undue influence over government officials for decades and centuries. So, you know, he's explaining there why governments are doing so many negative things, and why is it that people will do things to one another or to themselves, like kill themselves. You know, this is because of this influence of this supernatural element, which can be any of those things I just named. Now, this appears to be coming to an end if we accept many reports that positive extraterrestrials are intervening to put an end to it by awakening humanity to the truth. So this supernatural control, these groups behind the scenes, whether we're talking negative extraterrestrials, interdimensionals, demons, Satan, whatever you want to call it, that more and more of humanity is waking up to the truth. And that's because there are positive extraterrestrials that are helping us wake up to that. So very, very interesting. Now, here is a video from Alex Collier. It goes for... I'm going to play it for you, but you can watch it. It's called Should Enki and the Nibiru Beings Step Aside? Alex Collier's powerful take on Earth's future. So this is Alex Collier's official YouTube channel, and I think it is a very helpful perspective he has on the whole Nibiru, Enki, Enlil information. Now, what I think really is very helpful here is that we appreciate that, you know, there are different factions in the Anunnaki, and Alex Collier's take on it is that when you look at the historical records and in terms of what he was told by Andromedan extraterrestrials, that Enki or Ea was the good guy in the perennial conflicts with Enlil. So Enlil was like the asshole, if you like, or the one that was, I guess, he was the one that was ready to wipe out all of humanity because we were not living up to we weren't following the script, or that we were genetically altered in ways that he was not happy with, and others of the Anunnaki were unhappy with that. I think this is very accurate, that Enki Ea was the one that was very positive overall, but that what we have now is a situation where Enki has returned, or Ea has returned, and wants to restore his rule, or maybe he consciously doesn't want to restore his rule, but there are those that want him to have rule over humanity. And who is it that wants Enki to have custodianship or rule over humanity and take off from when he left, 13,000 years ago, when Enlil and Marduk took over Earth from Enki? Well, we can get an idea by looking at Zecharia Sitchin's book, The Lost Book of Enki, which gives us a rare bird's eye view of what the ruling bloodline families want us to think about Enki or Ea. Now, Zecharia Sitchin was a deep state asset, and he wrote the Earth Chronicles series, discussing the ancient Sumerian texts, in a way that would help set up a future religion that the ruling bloodline families that are in control of the deep state. So if you think of the deep state as kind of like bureaucrats, typically in senior executive service in the United States and its equivalent elsewhere, that behind them are corporate lobbyists and so forth, who are associated with these ruling bloodline families.
In the activation of the public safety alert.
Control Earth's corporations, banks, and tech companies, and oil and pharmaceutical, and so the control.
Thousands of people.
All of these companies ultimately comes down to these.
We suspend our daily programming.
Bloodline families want. Do they want Enki? Do they want Enlil? If we look at Zecharia Sitchin, he participated in
Know what is happening inside aside from the sickness.
We know that from both of them were given information independently that Zecharia Sitchin was working the deep state and the ruling bloodline families, and had been explicitly given orders to set up a religion worshipping the Anunnaki, and that Enki would be a fulcrum from him. So this is, we're talking 30 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, when Sitchin was writing his Earth Chronicles books, and I can't remember the actual date of the last book. This has been known for decades now. And we've been told by multiple sources that Enki has returned. So what do you do about that, right? And if you know that the deep state, the ruling bloodline families want Enki to become the fulcrum for a new Earth religion and really become the ruler of the Earth, then what does that tell you about Enki? And I think Alex Collier strikes a very balanced view here. He's saying that Enki overall was positive, but that the Anunnaki should step aside and let humanity take charge of its own destiny. That we don't want any Anunnaki being presented or being accepted as the So that's very interesting. So here you have UFOs, and he's obsessed with it. And so that over the summer months, he's going to be reading as much as he can to get up to speed on the issue. So it looks like I would take all of this as code for he's been read in to the UFO issue. He's been read into the fact that President Trump has been briefed about the Galactic Federation of Worlds and has been briefed about various extraterrestrials visiting our planet, and that Trump was briefed about Project Preserve Destiny. That was a news story that broke out in Italian newspapers, or the Italian newspaper La Espresso, and I covered that last week. And I see what J.D. Vance has just said, is that he now knows that this is real, and so he's studying it up, and I think he's going to take the position of really learning about the nuances of how the whole UFO extraterrestrial issue is being managed, because he knows at some point he's going to take over. You know, whether he's going to take over the presidency from Donald Trump at some point. I think Donald Trump probably is not going to finish his presidency in the United States. I think at some point Trump is going to be elevated to an even higher position than US president, and more about that soon. So I think I think Vance is getting ready, and so he knows that part of the position or part of the post that he currently holds, the job that he has as vice president is to get to the bottom of this issue and start making important decisions about it. And so this echoes what happened during the Eisenhower administration, where even though President Eisenhower was the president, it was Richard Nixon, who was vice president, that actually was the one that was briefed on the UFO issue and really played a role in finding out what was going on, which is why decades later he was then subjected to Watergate, because Nixon knew too much. So here is something where again we hear from Congressman Eric Burlinson, who is going to tell us about the UFO or UAP hearings being delayed and why they're being delayed. So let's listen to what Congressman Burlinson has to say. And if you ask him, how come Congressman Burlinson is out there so much and talking about UFOs, it's because he appointed David Rush as a senior advisor to his staff, because he wants to know what's going on, and so he gets probably one of the most read-in people that can help him or advise him to join his staff. So that's why he is making all these inquiries. So let's listen to what Congressman Burleson has to say about this new UAP hearing being delayed.
You and other members of the UAP caucus have said that you were hoping for the next big UAP hearing this month in July. Now it's been postponed until at least September. Why the delay?
Scheduling conflict with members, but also we want to get it right. So we're navigating getting the right witnesses, the best witnesses we possibly can. And so
By that, do you mean first-hand witnesses?
yeah, I'm trying to focus on that first-hand experience that can bring new conversations
First-hand experience with what?
with non-human intelligence.
Do you think you can get that?
People that will go on national news, many of them are not willing to come in and be in the oath.
Why? Because of the public backlash?
I don't know.
That's very whistleblowers with first-hand experience with non-human intelligence are willing to talk about it to the press or to the general public, but are very wary about testifying before Congress under oath. That's very interesting because I remember back in 2001 when I got interested in the whole UFO extraterrestrial issue. When I got interested in that, there was the Disclosure Project press conference that Dr. Stephen Greer organised, and that was something where all of the witnesses said that they were prepared to testify before Congress, and some of those witnesses did have first-hand experience, non-human intelligence. And so it's a very interesting question. Why aren't witnesses with first-hand experiences are not coming forward to testify before Congress? Are they being ignored? Has someone approached them and said, look, we know you're talking to the press, that's okay. But if you testify before Congress, we're going to get you. And I think that does work. I mean, I've been working with JP, the military, former US Army, and been working with him since 2008. And he's been approached in that way. He's been told, for example, you can release photos, no videos of the craft that is being seen or being taken. So there are limits to what these whistleblowers can safely come forward and say. So I could well imagine that if JP, or when he does reveal his testimony, that someone could approach him and say, we know you're talking to Sala or these other people, that's fine. But if you go before Congress and testify, we're going to come through, we're going to get you down. So that's very interesting question. All right, well, here's something that's always going to bring a few laughs, and that is my humor. I start each week now some sci-fi or exopolitics humor to start the week. So here is something that I played. I won't play the whole thing because I think it goes for about 4 minutes, but let's just listen to the first minute or two.
Out in Sector Bubba 9, past the Cracker Barrel Nebula, we're cruising through the stars in a rusted Winnebago. Sipping tea, sweet iced out his warp safe mason jar box. He says engage while lighting his pipe. Riker shirts off, grilling ribs with fire. West runs up, tripwire on his foot. We laugh as he trips and lands face first and beam me up, there's gators in the nacelles. We got boards in the barn and trebles in the wells. We're redneck trekkers, just warping with pride, with a trailer park, starship, and a possum inside. Warp speed, y'all, get it. Worf's chugging moonshine, wrestling a raccoon, calls it a glorious hunt under the redneck moon. Troy's reading minds at the poker shack, says y'all feeling shame, and we say yeah, but it's fine with Jack. Data's playing banjo, trying to feel the groove. Emotion chip failed, but he's still busting moves. Dr. Crusher's running backwoods clinic, cure space scurvy with gravy and a biscuit.
Okay, well there you go. So that's a lot of fun. So let's continue. So here's my interview with Michelle Pickerfield, who is projects, got her to be part of the program on Mars, and she was exploited. So this is the common theme with a lot of starseeds, a lot of galactic envoys who are identified somehow in the deep state, moving bloodline families, the negative entities. We're able to track these souls, starseeds or envoys that are born on Earth, and they then traumatize these individuals or these children to such an extent that when they grow up, that they have been traumatized so much that they're not able to achieve whatever mission they're supposed to achieve. And so this is one of the reasons why the Galactic Federation Envoy program, or this Galactic Envoy program, has been regarded as a failure by some, by the Galactic Federation, is because too many of the envoys have been intercepted, and stopped from being effective. And so that they're not able to bring about the transformative changes on Earth because they're so traumatized. But nevertheless, a few get through the corner. They don't commit suicide. I mean, many have, but those that don't commit suicide and go on to achieve some kind of connection with their star families then they are able to start finding a contribution. So that's what's happened with Michelle Portofrio. She went through a whole process of traumatization, but recently she has reconnected with her galactic family, and she has a husband up there working with the Galactic Federation of Worlds, and he is someone that has a mission, a very strong mission, warning humanity or helping humanity realize the dangers posed by AI and transhumanism. Because her husband, his name escapes me at the moment, I think it was Joanne, something like that, that her husband from this world, I think it was it Aldebaran? No, not Aldebaran. Okay, I'll have to go to my article to maybe see what it was. That her husband, here we go, Jorah Zell. Okay, so Jorah Zell, he came from a world that had been taken over by AI, where 90% of the population became transhumanists, controlled by the AI. In other words, they became Borgs. And so, fancy that you have AI taking over a planet so that 90% of the inhabitants become Borg. They're transhumanists. And the other 10% flee. And that's what happened to Michelle Portofrio's husband, that he fled his world and he made his way to the Galactic Federation and joined up with that, and now he is here along with the husband of Erica Amarina. She is another galactic envoy who's also got one of the most traumatic stories you could ever imagine. I mean, it really is horrible. And I've read Kathy O'Brien's book, The Transformation of America, and that was one of the hardest books I've ever had to read. And this book, Erica's book, describing her journey, her experiences, is kind of similar to that. Horrible what these women have been put through. But so Michelle Portofrio, she has shared her awakening and how she is working with the Galactic Federation to help warn humanity about the danger of AI and transhumanism. So very important that we keep that information in mind. Now here's a fascinating telepathic communication between Valiant Thor and Dr. Andrea Martin, where they discuss a variety of topics. Now, first of all, people might ask, well, is Valiant Thor having communications with birth beings? I mean, we know the very first person to talk about Valiant Thor and have communication with him was Frank Strangers, who met Valiant Thor at the Pentagon in 1957-58, and that Frank Strangers, ever since that time, maintained communications with Valiant Thor. Now, I did meet Frank Strangers in person. My wife and I met him back around 2006.
This is a public safety alert. There is an outbreak of violent behavior in the area. Stay indoors and lock your doors and windows.
We got to talk to him quite a bit, and he talked about Valiant Thor, and the thing is, one of the skill sets that I have is empathic empathy. I can feel people and I can connect to others that are being spoken about by the person. And so in the case of Frank Strangers, when he spoke about Valiant Thor, I got a feeling, and it was a very sweet, gentle, loving feeling about Frank Strangers had the same energy himself. I think he was clearly of that same civilization that Valiant Thor came from. So anyway, the bottom line is that I got to feel the energy of Valiant Thor as transmitted through Frank Strangers, who was talking about him to my wife and I. So when Andrea Martin was channeling Valiant Thor, well, actually channeling is the wrong word. She didn't actually channel him. She was more communicating with him, having a telepathic communication. But I could feel that same sweet, gentle energy coming through. So it resonated with me as real. So what they discussed were things that topics such as starseeds or galactic envoys being taken up on extraterrestrial ships at night and choosing not to remember due to the danger that would cause them due to deep state intervention. So that was something that kind of resonated with me, because I've long suspected that I've been taken up on ships. I mean, I wake up often, and my wife also has woken up, and we've got bruises and things like that, or you wake up and you're feeling exhausted as though you've been out all night, and it's like, I just had 5 hours, 6 hours sleep. How can I feel this way? But often I've woken up that way. And of course, because of my interest in the whole exopolitics field, I mean, we can talk about it more as an obsession. I mean, I've been obsessed by this field since 2001. It's like a bell was kind of like hit when I attended that Stephen Greer Disclosure Project, or when I saw that Disclosure Project video. When I saw that, I've been obsessed ever since. And I think that part of the reason is that the information I get when I do the research and interview people is similar to things that I have been experiencing at night, being taken on these ships, and then choosing consciously not to remember anything, otherwise the deep state would intervene. So I feel pretty confident that something like that has been happening to me. Also, what they talked about in that interview, I already talked about the AI threat, transhumanism. Valiant Thor describes how the power of the deep state is being curbed by the Galactic Federation. So that's very interesting, because that pretty much matches what the Swaru material has been saying about the Federation now being in control of the Earth's or the solar system 3D matrix. That this 3D matrix that kind of limits our ability to manifest the reality around us that we choose, that the 3D matrix makes that very, very hard. It's quite a struggle, whereas in 5D, which apparently galactic civilizations operate in, it's very easy to manifest. And so also in this interview, or this communication, Valiant Thor discusses how the Federation underestimated the deep state's capacity to track galactic envoys and intercepted them at birth and subjected them to multiple traumas to retard their abilities. So this is a very, very important point. I think that this is definitely what has been happening, that all of us that believe or feel that we're starseeds, galactic envoys, that we have been trapped and we have been intercepted at birth. And if you look at your life, and I can see that, and I don't know about you, but I can certainly look at my life and say, yeah, you know, how come this happened to me, and how come that happened to me, and I would say, well, that probably was because these dark actors wanted to kind of like make life as miserable and difficult as possible for me. Okay, and the other thing that Valiant Thor and Andrea Martin discuss is the exopolitical developments on Earth and how they mirror and influence galactic affairs in profound ways. And I think that is very important, that we understand that events happening on Earth kind of like mirror galactic affairs in very profound ways, that we need to understand that there is this as above, so below principle operating, the whole fractal universe model needs to be understood. Now, the question that many people may have is, well, how credible is Dr. Andrea Martin? I find her to be very credible due to her academic training and her willingness to risk her academic career on a topic that is so controversial. That's something I came across as well. I actually experienced that as an academic, and you spend years and years and years to get a PhD and get a job teaching and so forth. And so you find at a certain point that, well, if you start talking about UFOs and extraterrestrial life, that your academic superiors don't like it. And you
Those who stumbles upon an inner individual are required to...
That did happen to me, and it did happen to Andrea Martin eventually, or certainly it stunted her career in certain ways. Even though I think she was allowed to teach several UFO classes, but I don't think they were very popular. Okay, she has been corroborating, she has had her testimony corroborated by others, Erica Amarina, Michelle Portofrio, that there are others that have come forward to corroborate what she has said, and she's been helping galactic envoys in coming forward and sharing their experiences, and that's something that I'm finding as well. I've been approached by a lot of people who also believe that they are galactic envoys, and I'm in the process of vetting them and finding out, finding their stories, exploring these, and then eventually presenting what I learned to the public and through interviews or articles and so forth. And she gives a very grounded description. So I think Dr. Andrea Martin is a very credible source. All right, so now let's look at this particular story, and it kind of struck me as very strange that this was a story that the US Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, who is the interim NASA administrator while the Trump administration appoints a new permanent NASA administrator, that they have declared that they're going to fast-track plans for delivering a 100 kilowatt nuclear reactor on the moon by 2030. Now, it's been pointed out that a 100 kilowatt nuclear reactor isn't all that big. I mean, we're talking about something that will power the equivalent of 2 homes. So it doesn't have to be that big, but nevertheless, it does raise the question: how would you get a 100 kilowatt nuclear reactor, which obviously has to be packaged and put into some kind of casing so that there's no radioactive leaking and so forth? How would you transport that? Would it be through the Boeing Starliner? Would it be the SpaceX Starship? Or secretly via a reverse engineered production vehicle or solar warden? It can be, I think, more likely that the SpaceX Starship could do it in the future, because the Starship is still under development. It hasn't yet flown missions. It's just being tested. But once it's been fully tested, it can do it. I don't think the Boeing Starliner can do it. I mean, it's just your traditional capsule with the astronauts in there. They don't have that much room in there. Putting a nuclear reactor into the cockpit of Starliner, I don't think that would really work well. Or it could be a anti-gravity craft that's part of the secret space program that takes a nuclear reactor there. Personally, I think that this is just a cover, that there are no real plans to transport a nuclear reactor to the moon. One that uses fission, which is a very dirty form of energy, and you need to have a lot of protection for for anyone kind of close to such a reactor, which is why you just couldn't put it into the cockpit of a Boeing Starliner. I think that there are already nuclear reactors on the moon, that there are nuclear fusion reactors that have been up on the moon for decades. And I say that because about 5 years ago, there was a Navy scientist by the name of Salvador Payes who released patents or gained patents on behalf of the US Navy concerning a number of advanced technologies associated with a anti-gravity that one of these technologies was a nuclear fusion reactor that could generate, I think it was up to 1,000 gigawatts, or 1 gigawatt, but an enormous amount of power, enough to power a city for an extensive period of time. That was the nuclear fusion reactor, the patent for it, that was released, and what that signified to me was that this was technology that had already been developed and used, and now is considered old technology, and so it could be released to the general public through a patent application. And that, I think, is what happened. So you know, this occurred I think around 2020 or 2018 when Salvador Payes released those patents. So we're probably talking about technology that was released in the 1980s, which kind of matches US Navy's. Alright, so here he says that free ride atlas is one comets of dirty sparkles, gases, and silicate dusts, usually dominated by water gas, but also more volatile gases like carbon monoxide, which vaporizes beyond Jupiter. Two are aerosols, illustrating these comets and what is being expelled.
Where convenience meets community. Whether you're stocking up on the essentials or treating yourself to something special, we've got everything you need and more.
Atlas,
from our fresh
and
produce
it
that's
displaying not
to the snacks that keep you
behavior
going.
like the
Zippy
more
Market has
do,
you covered for every moment.
is that you have a number of different
and don't forget to
perspectives
check
on
out
this.
our weekly
So
specials,
some
because
say
great deals
that
aren't just for
Atlas
survivors.
is a
Hey, if you're
extraterrestrial
looking for something to really
spacecraft.
sink
Harvey
your
Law
teeth in, swing by our deli
says
counter.
that
Our meats are so
that's what
fresh
it
they
is.
might
Others
just
say
walk off
that
the
it
shelf.
is the
At Zippy Market, we're always preparing for tomorrow, whatever tomorrow might bring. So stock up today and don't get caught unprepared.
Zippy Market, the neighborhood shop that's always here for you. Thanks for choosing us. We hope your visit is a scream.
An object is going to be coming in, and that it would be used for a false flag event. And so he was warning that this would be...
Welcome to Zippy Market, where convenience meets community. Whether you're stocking up on the essentials or treating yourself to something special, we've got everything you need and more. From our fresh produce that's to die for, to the snacks that keep you going. Zippy Market has you covered for every moment. Oh, and don't forget to check out our weekly specials, because great deals aren't just for survivors. And hey, if you're looking for something to really sink your teeth in, swing by our deli counter. Our meats are so fresh they might just walk off the shelf.
At Zippy Market, we're always preparing for tomorrow, whatever tomorrow might bring.
So again, I think that what's happened here is that you have a senior official, Tulsi Gabbard, who is currently the Director of National Intelligence, very likely received the briefing that extraterrestrial life is real, but she has not been cleared to discuss that in the public. or make it an official statement. So I suspect that she has learned that extraterrestrial life is real, but that she can't say anything more about it until there is approval in the Trump administration. So I think what we're seeing right now in the Trump administration with, the different briefings that have happened, Trump has been briefed. I believe Vice President J.D. Vance has been briefed. I think Tulsi Gabbard has been briefed. I think that the Trump administration is waiting for something to happen that will then openly discuss something is being prepared. Exactly what? I will very, very shortly. All right, so here is a it's just a photo of Dr. Davis. In this interview, this is with a UFO researcher called Smith, and he met with a meeting somewhere near Austin, Texas, this Brushy Creek neighborhood of Austin, Texas. So there's a kind of like a transcript, so I guess the meeting was recorded, or maybe just from memory, notes were taken. And what Eric Davis had to say about non-human intelligence is very interesting. He said that non-human intelligence exists and are off-world extraterrestrial beings, and that's based on his extensive research and work with legacy aerospace companies and governments. And I find it really very odd that these scientists, such as Eric Davis, and you've got whistleblowers such as David Grush, and UFO researchers such as George Knapp, Jeremy Colbell, that all agree that yes, NHI exists, extraterrestrials are real, but and craft have been recovered and they're being studied by legacy aerospace companies, but none of these had been successfully reverse engineered. And so when you see a UFO or a UAP, it's not ours, doesn't belong to America. So it's either a Russian or Chinese craft, which means that we should pump more money into the Pentagon because they have to catch up, the Chinese and the Russians are ahead, or it's alien. And then it's okay, same thing, we've got to pump money into the Pentagon because, well, these are alien craft and look at their capabilities and we can't match them. And so, but all along, they're our craft, or they belong to the US Navy's. They belong to the US secret space programs, different government agencies. Okay, so this is my second interview now with Erica Amorino, and I mentioned her earlier in terms of her very traumatic experiences growing up as a child, all the way into her adulthood, and she went through a process where the trauma and the injuries and her sicknesses became so bad that at some point she decided to suicide.
You are required to disperse. I repeat, you are required to disperse. Acts of anarchy will be dealt with.
You're really going to kill yourself? And they introduce themselves, and she suddenly finds out that she's part of the Galactic Envoy program, and importantly, she was not alone. She was always being watched over. But she had agreed to go through these experiences because she wanted to learn what the deep state was doing. So in a way, she chose to allow herself to be abused by the deep state that intercepted her as a child, knew she was a galactic envoy, connected with a particular group of extraterrestrials, and did everything because she would now, as an adult, know what they are capable of and what they did, what kind of technologies they used. But the important thing is that in her awakening now and her knowledge that she is part of the Galactic Envoy program is that she now understands better what the big picture
I repeat,
is.
you are
So that
required
before
to
the
disperse.
and
Acts of anarchy will be dealt with. Disperse and stay in your homes. This is the police. You are required to disperse. I repeat, you are required to disperse.
AI threat that has led to infiltration of organizations such as the Galactic Federation, and and she takes the same position as Andrea Martin that this infiltration was identified and the infiltrators were removed from positions of power. So even though the Galactic Federation has been compromised in making certain agreements, because of these dark actors, those dark actors have been removed. She has also talked about portals being used for traveling through portals as a child,
Required to disperse.
because
I repeat,
the frequency of consciousness to be able to use those, to also be able to use space arcs, and also a group of people on the first video we did with Andrea about what she has done with the galactic brain and what the influence that it has to navigate the actions of the deep state will employ. Now, interestingly, she says that one of the men that that she interacted with, while she was on the SpaceX, was Jean-Charles Barkley. So that'll be very interesting to see if he records anything. I do plan to interview Jean-Charles in the next month or so, so I will be sure to ask him about this. So once again, this is a very important interview because this is the challenges posed by artificial intelligence and things that we really, really need to be careful of. So is
required.
posing a concern about channeled messages from the galactic, what is it, channel station website. I think that's the Galactic Federation of Light. Now, this was channeled by Brian Okira, and I have we've had a long phone conversation, and he is very real. He is very close, and he is very close. There's no doubt about it. After we met, we were feeling very high. He's a very elevated individual. Now, that doesn't mean that we accept everything that he's channeling, but it just gives us reason to be confident that the information is coming from very highly evolved sources. Now, as I said, you don't need to believe those sources or accept everything they say, but I think it's good to know what those sources are telling us and then make our own decisions based on us being sovereign, independent beings, or that we are uh, infinite consciousness having a human experience, that our soul, our heart center is connected to the universe. And so we have the capacity to understand everything that is happening here. And so these kinds of channeled messages coming from these elevated beings, it's not so much that we accept them as like, oh, okay, well, this comes from the Andromedans or this comes from the Arcturians, and so therefore I'm going to follow everything that they say, because really the most highly evolved messages uh, always kind of like get you to turn within and say, okay, within you you have this infinite consciousness, and you got to connect with that. That's where the truth is going to come from, and so I think this is why the GFL station website has grown so rapidly. I think they have now close to 140,000 subscribers on YouTube, because people feel really good listening to this information. It's very optimistic. I mean, some might say it's hopium, but I think that hopium can be a good thing, especially if you dose it with a little bit of realism here and there. But hopium can be a good thing, because ultimately, what we have to learn to do is to collectively manifest a beautiful earth. We have to collectively manifest a world where people are in harmony, that we love each other, and we look out for one another. And that is something that we have to collectively manifest. And I think that this is what one of the functions of this kind of channeled information from the GFL station. It really is all about that, trying to get us to collectively manifest. And in my last week's week in review, I talked about the Swaru material, and the Swaru material saying that humanity is not going to be allowed to interact with fifth density galaxy until we learn not to collect